Welcome to the Mighty Emotions Podcast. I'm your host, Giselle. I'm a certified emotions coach, and I teach you how to respond better to your emotions so you can feel better in your life. My mission is to show you how to work with your emotions to become more emotionally resilient. Your emotions are not designed to overpower you, they're designed to empower you. On this podcast, I share what our emotions are, how to understand them and work with them, and the tools you need to reclaim your power and get unstuck from emotional pain so you can find fulfillment in your life again. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get into the episode. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to another episode. How are you? Have you brought yourself into the equation yet for the day? Whenever you're listening to this, have you paused and asked yourself, hey, self, how's it going? Do you have everything you need? Does whatever you're doing, or not even does what you're doing, because we don't always control what we're doing, but does the way that you're doing this feel good for you? Do we need to adjust it? This is such a powerful thing to ask ourselves. Like, we think about it, you wake up every morning and you say good morning to the day, or you say good morning to your family or your cat or your plant. But do you say good morning to yourself? Do you ask yourself how you're doing? We ask other people, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's going on? Do you ask those questions to yourself? This is really important because the whole reason that we practice emotional resilience, practice emotional self-care, the foundation of emotional self-care is checking in with ourselves, is connecting to ourselves. So it's so important that if you haven't done that yet, this is a gentle reminder to just check in with yourself. I just came back from a little walk. It's finally becoming spring here in Canada. I swear I love living here because I love seasons. But I do start to get a little impatient, I'm not going to lie, when I'm ready for spring to be here. But it was beautiful outside today, and I just got back from a walk. And on my walk, I was asking myself, does this pace feel good? Are you walking too fast? Who are you rushing for? What are you rushing for? What would feel better for you? What would be a better pace for you? I am a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner. I got a lot going on, and I'm grateful for everything that's going on. And because life is both and, I tend to put everybody else first without even really realizing it because I want to you know, do good by everyone. We all do, right? We all have that inner moral compass. And I value being of service, and I value giving quality care to other people. And sometimes that means that I forget, even though I practice my, self-care practices and everything, but as simple as saying good morning to myself, bringing myself into the equation. My sponsor likes to say, bringing God into the equation. And yeah, just saying, hi, good morning. Good morning, self. How's it going? What do you need? Such a powerful practice. Um, Today, I want to dive into something else that I've been stewing on and reflecting on. Just interacting with other people, clients, having conversations with people, and realizing this fear that we have of feeling. And I don't think we realize that it's a fear of feeling, which is why I want to kind of talk about it and maybe get us to reflect on, is that really what we're afraid of, right? Because fear is that instinctive, pay attention, be intentional, be deliberate, um, choose what you're going to do. We don't often react to fear that way, but that's really what fear is trying to get us to do, trying to get us to be aware of is, hey, something is going to require your attention in this scenario because you need to take care of yourself right now. So be intentional. Don't go into this blind, right? Protect yourself by being intentional. And Like if you think about it, animals, right? You'll see like in a safari, a gazelle, they'll hear a noise and they'll stick their neck up straight and they'll look around, right? That's that instinctual fear that's like getting us to look out, pay attention, get prepared. We often respond to fear in many different ways when we don't know how to work with it and we don't understand it and we don't know what it's kind of prompting us to do. And there are many ways that we can respond to fear, right? There's times when we need to fight for our life. There's times when we need to run. There's times when we need to fawn because that's what's safest for us. There's nothing wrong with these responses. It's just about, are we intentional with these responses, right? Did I do this by default just because I've done it before? Or did I do this because I'm really getting myself prepared in this scenario? Right? I'm using that agency, I'm using that personal power. Every time we work with our emotions, we're exercising our power. And the more we can exercise our power, the more powerful we feel. But the less we exercise that power, the less we work with our emotions, the less powerful we feel. That's when we really feel powerless, when we are allowing ourselves to just be victim to life, just fall prey to whatever comes our way, reacting constantly, you know, rather than really being present, like being alive, like being in our bodies. Embodiment is such a powerful practice, but it is a practice because we're so used to being in our minds, living in different realities, the future, the past, right? So, what does all of this have to do with fear? Well, when we think about a scenario that we're afraid of, it's typically a couple of things. Either there's a real physical danger, right? And we need to respond accordingly. But a lot of the times, especially in our world today, it's the psychological danger. And it's this feeling of some kind of harm is going to happen to me. I can see this harm happening to me. I can predict this harm. And that harm is typically, or how we perceive that harm is usually the pain that we think an experience is going to cause us to feel. And that pain could be sadness, it could be shame, it could be guilt, right? So when I am rushing on a task to get something done for somebody else, there's this guilt that I don't want to feel because I believe that if it doesn't get done in this way, by this standard, then that person's going to be disappointed. And then I'm going to be disappointed in myself and I'm going to feel that guilt. And I don't want to feel that guilt. So I'm going to rush, right? Or we know that we need to set a boundary with somebody and that they're likely to not be really happy about that. And we don't want to feel the shame that we might feel or the sadness that we might feel when they respond in a certain way. So we don't set the boundary, or we kind of skirt around it, or we behave really avoidant. That causes a whole other set of problems, but I won't get into that now. It's just we don't want to feel that sadness, so we don't do it, right? And it's that fear again that can only really be there when we believe that that sadness is harm, or that guilt is harm, or that shame is harm. So when we see our emotions as harmful because we don't work with them, we don't process them, we don't understand them, then we want to avoid them. Then we need to find ways to get around them. Then we behave in these maladaptive protective behaviors, aka trauma responses, because I don't want to feel sadness. I don't want to feel guilt. I don't want to feel shame. And if you don't, you're human. I'm not saying this to make you feel like you need to not feel this way, right? Everything that we feel is what we're supposed to feel, right? Everything. So even if you have that fear of feeling, that's what you're supposed to be feeling in this moment. There's nothing wrong with it, right? It's completely appropriate, but it is that moment to pause and reflect and become aware, because the way we work with fear is that we get prepared. right? That's the intentional piece. That's the paying attention, right? We're prepared to respond and we're choosing our response. We're not just reacting to some kind of harm, right? We're choosing how we're going to respond in the situation and how we're going to get prepared. And so that's the beauty of practicing this emotional self-care, practicing using the Mighty Emotions method and knowing how to move through it with every single core emotion, because when you are anticipating sadness, you already know how to process sadness. So you already know that sadness is a gift in some way. And we can only predict ourselves feeling something that we've felt before. So it's always a good time when we feel that fear of feeling, when we're afraid to experience an emotion, to slow down and think, okay, where have I felt this before that I didn't process? Because not having processed that emotion is why it's lodged in our psyche as going to cause us harm, right? It doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great to feel sad. It doesn't feel great to feel ashamed. And we know how to process it. We know how to work with it. We know how to be prepared to move through it. So here's what I mean in practice, because maybe I'm speaking really abstract. If I have to set a boundary with you and I think that you're going to be unhappy about it, and that's going to make me feel guilty because I don't want you to feel unhappy, then I need to process that guilt that I think I'm going to feel before I even set that boundary, right? I need to reflect on, okay, when have I set a boundary in the past? Or like, even if it was really small, even if I said it and then I took it back because you got upset. When have I felt that but way before? And then processing through that to see, first of all, letting it arise in my body, right? Because if I felt it before and I haven't processed it, then it's in my body. It's in my nervous system. So letting it rise, myself honor that, right? Processing that guilt, and then moving through the steps of understanding, okay, my values, and understanding what's my responsibility, what's not my responsibility, and getting really clear on that before I set the boundary with you. And this is why when people come to me and they want to learn how to set boundaries, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's work that needs to happen here first. Because the reason you haven't set the boundary is because you're afraid to feel something. And so first we need to learn how to feel those things so that we can set the boundary with ease, right? I recently have been having some fear of feeling shame come up, feeling embarrassed, feeling like something's wrong with me. And it's silly, but it's real. And it's because I was bullied a lot and it didn't feel good. It did not feel good. I was, mistreated by people that I wanted to be friends with. And there's just so many stories in there about, my worth and my value to people and whether or not people want to be friends with me and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All lies. All lies that need to be processed. And I'm working through it. But I know that this fear of feeling the shame is holding me back from taking certain steps and taking certain action and getting to know certain people. And so I'm in a phase of my life where I need to decide what's really important, right? And what's really important is getting my needs met. That need for connection with others, that need for connection to myself, and that self acceptance, that need for safety internally. Like I said, safety is about being prepared. And so sometimes we need to get prepared on the external plane, on the external level. We need to take certain measures and take certain steps and put certain things in place. But we often forget about internal safety, getting prepared internally, putting things in place internally by practicing emotional resilience, by practicing processing those emotions. Because the fear of feeling is going to stop us every time. The fear of feeling is going to stop us every time. The fear of an actual thing, like a tangible thing, is going to stop us a little bit less because we all will just leap into trying to control the situation and taking the external steps. The external stuff is typically a little bit easier to prepare for, right? We tend to go overboard in that area, actually, because we don't like to feel powerless and we don't like to feel out of control. But remember what I said earlier. Feeling powerless is because we're not using our personal power by processing our emotions. So that feeling of powerless is just going to compound and grow because we're not taking our power back. And that power is to say, hey, self, what are you afraid to feel? What are you afraid this situation is going to cause you to feel? Let's feel that. Let's be with that. Let's process that. Right? And create that internal safety of knowing that you're safe with every single there is not an emotion that you are not safe with. You are safe with every emotion. You're safe with shame. You're safe with sadness. You're safe with anger. You're safe with fear. You're safe with all of it. Why? Because all of it is your instinct. All of it is your higher wisdom. Right? You're safe with joy. There's a lot of times that we feel afraid of feeling joy or feel afraid of feeling pleasure because we think it's going to disappear and we're going to feel sadness right after. It's like process all of that. Be with all of that. Honor all of that. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with you, right? But if you want to stop feeling powerless and afraid all the time, it's about that, okay, what am I afraid to feel here? When have I felt that before? Let's process this now. Let's honor this in our bodies. Let's look at the truth. Let's listen to what that emotion is showing us. Remember, every emotion has a message. And fear is a message. Fear's message is get prepared. Get prepared. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself as you go forward in this situation. Fear doesn't say, don't go forward in this situation. Fear says, be intentional as you move forward in this situation. And by doing that, we take our power back. We feel more powerful. We feel more in control, right? Shame says, you decide who you are. You decide what your opinion of yourself is. You get to make your own, you get to have your own opinion about yourself. Do you think you're a good person? Do you think you're a smart person? If nobody else was around, what would you think about you? And if the answer is no, why? And unpack that and decide who you want to be, how you want to be. That's what shame gives us an opportunity to do, right? Sadness. Sadness says connect, connect, connect. Get support. Find someone who will witness you and honor your humanity. Honor your own humanity. You know, if you're missing something, if you've lost something, if there's an absence of something that's meaningful to you, how can you get that in another way? How can you honor that? Maybe it's a person who's no longer in your life and there's nothing you can do about that, but the essence of that person and what they brought to your life, that's something that's within your control. Take your power back. All of our emotions are simply giving us that opportunity to take our power back, to practice our agency, to practice our autonomy. And when we do that, we feel more powerful. We feel less powerless. And we're able to keep moving forward and bouncing back and being resilient. It starts within, it starts internally. So know that if you're afraid to feel, I feel afraid to feel too. Like I just shared, right? There's certain things that I haven't been doing because I haven't been willing to look at those feelings that I'm afraid to feel. But now, no time like the present. No time like the present. And the way that I'm going to move through that is by reflecting on, okay, where do I need to process what happened before and how it left me feeling, right? and I can't go back and change that scenario, but it's not about the external scenario. It's about what it left me believing about myself, about the world. It's about what action I didn't take at the time that I need to take now. So for example, at the time, I let other people define me. And that's why that shame is like, "Hey, no, no, no." So now the action that I need to take is saying, "Okay, how would I have defined myself then? How do I define myself now?" Using my personal power in that way, right? Being honest with myself, checking in with myself. And just saying this is like bringing up so much gratitude in my heart. I can just feel it, right? I'm so, so grateful. So I hope that this episode, like all episodes, I hope that it brought you something. I hope that you can take a moment to connect to yourself. I hope that something resonated with you. I record this for me as much as I record this for you guys, okay? So I was really excited to come on and talk about this today. And really exciting, switching gears, I have an announcement. Dun, da, da, da. I'm going to start having guests on the podcast. I'm so excited. I love being a guest on podcasts. I'm like, you know what? I want to have guests on my podcast. I want to bring people on because I don't want to be the only voice talking about emotions. I want to normalize us talking about emotions, honestly, being honest with ourselves and like witnessing each other, just being okay with the messiness of it all and holding space for that and sharing stories about people who have moved through messy emotions to get where they are. That's the biggest piece, right? To know that you don't need to be stuck in those emotions, to know that they're okay. And on the other side of them, there's something on the other side of moving through them. So I'm really excited to have guests on talking about, different things. Next week's is going to be the first episode with a guest, and I really hope you tune in. She's amazing, and I was on her podcast. She's a special soul. So definitely tune in next week. If you're listening to this, whenever you're listening to this, if it's not next week, check out episode 40. That's going to be the first one, but there's going to be many, many more guests on the show, and I can't wait. The more that we all kind of just share honestly about what it's like to be human, the less we feel alone and the less we feel abnormal. And that's the goal because there is nothing wrong with you. Okay? So take that to heart, really embody those words, and I will see you on another episode. Thank you for listening. I love you so much for listening. And remember to be gentle with yourself. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It would mean so much if you could subscribe, leave a review, share with your friends and family, and let me know what you think by going to my Instagram at mighty_emotions and connecting with me and letting me know what you loved about today's episode. It really means a lot that you support this podcast, and I love coming to you each week with a new episode. So be sure to subscribe, let me know what you think, and take care of yourself.